Welcome to the second installment of our measuring angles videos. This time you're going to need a protractor and a straight edge or a ruler of some sort. So if you don't have those, it'd be nice to get those out right now and maybe a piece of paper and a pencil. So pause the video if you need to do that, and then once you're ready, start up the video again. Okay, so we're going to go over just the anatomy of a compass real quick. This is going to be called the center. So when I refer to the center in the video, that's what I'm talking about, is the point uh, right here where the 0 and 180 kind of come together. Um, this is called the base. This line down here, so when I refer to the base, that's what I'm talking about. And let's get into it. So we've got an angle here. And so to measure an angle, we're going to place the center of the vertex on the angle. So I'm sorry, we're going to place the center on the vertex of the angle. I read that wrong. So that means we're going to take this center part and put it on the vertex of the angle. And then we're going to line up the base with one side of the angle. So let me show you what I mean here. Here's my protractor. I'm going to slide it over to this angle. So before we do this, I'd encourage you to make an angle. Just take your ruler and draw two rays sticking out of one point, and then follow along and see how big your angle is. So line your protractor up to the vertex. So I've got the center lined up right with the vertex. And then what I'm going to do is take my base and line it up with one of these two rays. So I'm going to turn my protractor so that my base lines up. So I could have it like this, or I could turn it the other way and have it line up like this. It's off by just a little bit. There we go. So I'm just going to keep it the way I had it. All right, so I've got my protractor all lined up. And now my next step, I'll click to the next slide here. It asks, well, how do we tell what angle it is? Is it 123 because it's a little bit between 120 and 130? Or is it 57 because it's, a little more between 50 and 60? So that there's a couple ways to tell. One way is if you're comfortable with acute versus obtuse, you can tell that this is an acute angle, so obviously it's going to be the smaller one. So it's going to be 57. So that's going to be our answer, is 57. Okay, the other way to tell, though, and this is more technically correct, is you start at 0. And so you always start at 0. And since 0 is the inside number on our baseline, we're going to use the inside numbers. And so that's the 57 here. The outside numbers are starting at 180, so we're not going to be using those. So starting at 0, we get to 57 on the inside number. So that's how you can tell which one it is. Okay. All right. So then how would we measure an angle that's really small? Because if I line this up, you're kind of guessing. And so I obviously gave you a hint on this slide. We're going to extend these rays out so that it lines up with our protractor. So I'm just going to, you can get your ruler out and extend them out. Or what I'll do is I'll just use this nice drawing tool and I'll draw one right on top of it that extends out a little farther. Okay, there and there. That should be big enough. Then I can plot my protractor back on the vertex, the baselines all lined up with the 0 line. And I can measure this and it looks to me like it's about, so is it 40 or 140? It would be the inside number because we start at 0, so it's going to be 140. So this one looks like it's about 140 degrees. It might even be, pardon me, 141 or something like that. Okay, so now how do we draw an angle? So let's say I wanted to draw a 115 degree angle. So your first step is just draw a ray. So take your ruler or straight edge and just draw a ray. So I'll do that here. Here's my ray drawn. And then my next step is I'm going to put the center of my protractor on the end point of the ray so that the ray points along this base. So like this. I've got my protractor where the center is at the end of the ray. That's very important. Oftentimes you'll see people who don't know how to use a protractor and they'll just have it kind of lined up anywhere. And so I'm going to make sure it's lined up right at the end point here. Okay, next we're going to put our protractor on to where we have our protractor on there. So now we're going to mark off what our angle we want. So if I want to do 115, I'm going to mark it right there. And I know it's going to be this 115 and not this 115 right here because my baseline is right at 0 and that's the outside number. So I'm going to follow that along until I get to 115 and make a mark. And then once I do that, I'm going to remove my protractor and I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to line it up. And I'm going to turn this guy here. There we go. And then I'm just going to take my pencil and I'm going to draw that straight line. And, you know, fortunately, since I have technology, I can just use my line tool. And I'm going to draw that nice straight line. And once I take my ruler away, I'm going to have my 115-degree angle. So that's how to make an angle. It's also how to measure an angle. Hopefully that helps. This was the second of our installment of videos. Up next is making or solving using algebra with angles.